All right, so here is going to be video one for your study guide. So I'm going to start going over the answers. There's going to be a couple videos as we go through everything, but I know some of you may do a little bit better if I'm explaining everything. So here goes nothing. So here you can see over here on the left side of the screen is the copy of the study guide. And then I'll be going through all of the answers and talking about what the correct answer is, and more importantly, why it's correct. So what type of waves are sound? Really, now remember, as you're watching these videos, feel free to pause whenever. Now I should note, your writing will not always be like mine. So it's okay if you don't write exactly the things I have, as long as you have around the same general idea. That's what's important. I usually tend to overwrite the answers on study guides. Just know that you don't have to, but just know that I wrote probably a little more information than you did, and that's okay. Just want to be as thorough as I possibly could. So what type of waves are sound waves? Well, sound waves are longitudinal, number one. So think it back to when we used the Slinkies in class. Really, we were pulling them back and forth, and that's what caused the compressing and the expanding. That's exactly how they move through air, is they work by compressing and expanding all of the air around it. So looking at number two right there, light is an electromagnetic wave, while sound is not. Sound waves are mechanical waves. What's one major difference? AKA, really, I messed up with this question, but what it should say is what's one major difference between longitudinal waves and electromagnetic waves? And the biggest difference between sound and light is that the sound waves they require a medium, right? Remember, they have to be able to move through something, solids, liquids, gases. Light does not require a medium. It can move through a medium, but it does not require a medium to actually travel, because remember, light goes through space. There's no air in space. So light is one of those ones where that is the biggest difference between those two waves, is sound requires a medium, light does not. So then the number three, we're looking at these couple diagrams over here. So which one was a sound wave? Well, if I'm thinking back to what I remember with question number one, what type of waves are sound waves, right? It works with compressing and expanding. Well, diagram number two does just that. So the answer to number three is, in fact, diagram number two. Look at the compressions, right? The compressions and the expanding. That's why the answer to this question is diagram number two. So which diagram is a light wave? Well, if diagram two is a sound wave, the wave that goes up and down here, diagram number one, is in fact a light wave. So diagram one is a light wave. Light waves are also what we call transverse waves. All right, number five. In diagram one, what is label C called? Well, if we look at label C, it's labeling from the top of one wave to the top of another. Well, if you label from the top of one wave to the top of another, or the crest of one wave to the crest of another, that is what's called the wavelength. So, looking at the distance between the two peaks, you're looking at, essentially, a wavelength. So number six, which diagram is a transverse wave? Well, this question is essentially a very, very similar question to number four, because the answer is the same. So which diagram or which wave is transverse? Well, that's going to be diagram number one. Remember, light waves are transverse waves that look just like this. So which diagram requires a medium travel through? Well, we're going back to the same thing we looked at with number two. So chances are, if I'm asking it to you twice, you're going to see it again. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You'll see it again. So what diagram requires a medium? Well, that's going to be diagram number two. Remember, light waves do not require a medium. Sound does require a medium. Solids, liquids, or gases. Okay, so number eight, when looking at sound waves, what controls how loud the sound is? Is it amplitude or is it frequency? Remember how loud the sound is. Really, all of that is controlled by amplitude. So amplitude for each wave influences the volume, whereas if we're looking at number nine, what controls the energy? Well, thinking about, remember what sound waves are: compressions and expanding, compressing and expanding. Really, how fast something vibrates. So essentially, that is going to be frequency. So frequency is what influences the energy of a sound wave. If you think back to when we did those sounds in class,